All right, so Jeff, in this session, we are going to talk about profile options in Oracle Cloud applications, ERP, HCM. And we're going to talk about some of the findings that we've come across so far and why organizations should be paying attention to them. Obviously on helping them to mitigate risk, but also some of the opportunities that these functions present. So I'm going to hand over to you and let you tell us about profile options in the cloud and what organizations should be, if they're not using, should be looking to use to help secure their environments.
Awesome. Yeah. So profile options are set typically by an IT user. So the page associated with that's Manage Application Core Administrator Profile Values. That's an example of one of the pages where you can set profile options. Profile options are configurations that govern both kind of functionality within the application. So you can have a profile option specific to a purchasing process or a payables process. But they also set generic IT kind of overall system level configurations. So there's a couple thousand of them. I'm not sure what the latest number is for ERP Cloud, but last we looked, there was, I think, close to 2,000 different profile options that can be set. Oracle uses those to set upon install. So part of your default configuration is what Oracle puts in for those profile options throughout the various applications. And those should be evaluated as part of your initial go live for the each application as you're going live for the first time to make sure you're comfortable with how Oracle set those.
Yeah.
But on an ongoing basis, there should be a governance process in and around the setting of those and the proving of those. And a lot of organizations don't always think about the necessity of, like, for example, which one should go through change control, which one shouldn't. Who should approve those? Is it a business analyst? Is it a business process owner? Is it as a senior level IT executive, or maybe the application owner? But profile options can be set at 3 different levels, and this is the key to understand: is what level should it be set at, and then who should be approving it, depending upon what the impact of the system is or the risk. So I'll just talk through 3 examples. People are familiar, if they've been around supporting Oracle applications, with the concept of enabling logs. And enabling logs allows the system to develop more information about a business process. Often log files are enabled and provided as part of a service request to Oracle. So usually you're focusing on a given application, or in ERP Cloud, the term is product at the setting profile values. Or you're trying to troubleshoot a specific user. So your governance process would say, if we're going to set a profile option, we should set it at the user level if it's possible, unless Oracle tells us to set it at the product level, and then we're setting it just for that particular user. So that would be an example of something that's more operational.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a fundamental change in the way the applications work. It's just tracking things that aren't otherwise tracked. So we'd expect a change ticket, or at least the help desk ticket, with like the apps manager proving that. So they were familiar with the fact that log files are there. Then, and in theory, then once the logs are captured, it should be disabled.
Yeah.
Another example, which is again more operational in nature, is something called the export row limit. So by default, I think it's set to 1 million rows or something like that. So that may be something that you're trying to export something, a large amount of data, and you want to either make it larger or smaller. Maybe it's a table where you have PII data on, or some GDPR data. You want to limit the ability for somebody to export a bunch of data from that particular form. You may want to make that smaller. So again, your options are the site level, which governs everything, and the product level. So like, say, for example, I'm going to set that for general ledger, and the user level. And so a user level would override the product level would override the site level. And that's a little bit counterintuitive for some people. They think, well, if I'm setting at the site level, then it's always going to be that way. And so I'm setting as a default at the site level, but Oracle provides the flexibility to override those.
Yeah.
And so what would happen is, if I set it at the product level, if it's set at the user level, that one particular user would have either a looser restriction or more restriction on whatever that purpose of that profile option is.
Right. Okay.
And then one more I'll just throw in here, Lewis, is one of our favorite ones, which does have a very specific risk associated with it, is the profile called Read-Only Mode. And where this is used is to, let's say, you want a user to have access to read-only, like an audit user, and they should never, ever have the ability to transact against anything or set up any master data or make any configuration changes. So there is a profile option that can make a user login 100% read-only with no exceptions.
Yeah.
So this is set through the profile display name is called Read-Only Mode. So if you had a user that was set at read-only mode and you were removing that, it would move their access from pure read-only to 100% update access. So one example would be maybe you're giving an auditor an account that would have the ability to read only everything that's in the IT security manager role, the security console, to be able to look at, application security configurations and users and roles and those type of things, or maybe even the application implementation consultant role, that they would want to see a bunch of configurations related to, IT application controls or ITGCs, and from an audit perspective.
Yeah.
So if someone were to go in and remove the profile option value or disable it, if you will, so it's no longer read-only mode, that would make that user account from pure read-only to a highly privileged role with IT security manager access and potentially the application implementation consultant role in my example. So it's important in general for an organization to say, how are we going to govern each individual profile option, which is, in my three examples, read-only mode, the export row limit, and the F&D log enabled. Different people may be approving those, and you may be setting those at different levels, and it's important to document what we would call a governance process, profile option by profile option, of how those should be managed.
Yeah, makes sense. Excellent. Okay.
So just to recap, I would say on this topic, we always ask 4 questions for each profile option. Should it be set in a production environment? At what level should it be set? So some cases you may say it shouldn't be set for whatever reason. What level should it be set? Site level, product level, user level. Who should approve the setting of those things? Mm-hmm. And then finally, the question is, should it go through the formal IT change management process? Some cases you may just say, to enabling a log, we don't have to go through the formal IT change management process. We just need a ticket. The ticket needs to be approved by an apps manager. So that would be not the formal, release process or the formal IT change management process going before the change control board, but still have a structured approval process. Yeah. So, so should it be set? What level should it be set? Who should approve? And should it go through the change control process? Those are the 4 questions you should ask for each profile option type.
Yeah, perfect.